Okay, so this is the next installment of Jewish Heroes, and tonight we're going to talk about three amazing personalities. One is Rav Chaim ben Atar, the Hachaim HaKadosh, who's buried here in Har Zeisim. Yesterday was the art site, Tesvav Tammuz. Then we're going to speak a little bit about my Rebbe's grandfather, Reb Eliezer Yudel Finkel. He was the son of the Alter of Slobodka, and he was the first Rosh Yeshiva of Mir. He was the one who brought the Mir to America, to Israel, to Yerushalayim. I'm sorry. There was actually, they split up. There is a Mir in America. There's a Mir in Brooklyn that you might have heard of. That Rav Kamenovich brought Mir to America after the war. Ben Reb Eliezer Yudel was in charge of the Mir in Yerushalayim. So, and then we're going to talk about an amazing person called Gellman. That we'll see, he was a revolutionary leader during the Holocaust, and so one by one. So let's talk a little bit about the Hachaim HaKadosh. Hachaim HaKadosh is Rav Chaim ben Atar. He was a Rav in Morocco. I passed away in 1743, and at the end of his life, so he came to Yerushalayim, and he lived in Akko, he lived in Tveria, and he's buried in Har Zeisim here. So he was a very holy man. Like if we're talking about like different kind of styles of tzaddikim, so he would go into the category of the holy rabbi. he was the kind of person. He was like just in a different world. He was like, miracles were going around everywhere. He was always fasting. He was like less of the kind of like he's like there for you when you need someone to speak to. He was more the kind of rabbi. We haven't had children. What should we do? And he says, "Oh, don't worry. 1 second. Okay, that's it. You'll have children." And it was less of the emotional side. He was just on a higher level. Okay. Interestingly, the Baal Shem Tov, they were contemporaries. The Baal Shem Tov and the Hachaim HaKadosh were Baal Shem Tov, were contemporaries, and he said to one of his students that if he would meet with the Hachaim HaKadosh, then together they would be able to bring Mashiach. And so, I don't know if he himself explained or one of his students explained that he understood that the Hachaim HaKadosh had the neshama of Atzilus, of the Mashiach, and he had the neshama of Asiyah, of Mashiach. So if they would come together, then they would be able to bring down the other elements of the Bria and Yetzirah of Mashiach. And it actually corresponds with something that we learned on the Sunday class, that the Mashiach comes down into every single Jew, that there's a part of the neshama of Mashiach. So he understood that the essence of the neshama Mashiach was in the Hachaim HaKadosh as well as in him, and therefore if they would be able to come together, that would be amazing. There's also a very interesting story about when they passed away. The connection between the Baal Shem Tov and the Hachaim HaKadosh is that when the Hachaim passed away, so it was Motzei Shabbos in Israel, and it was still the end of Shabbos in Mezhebush, and so he was washing for Shal Shudas, the Baal Shem Tov, and he said that Kava Ner Hamaravi. I mean, I probably said it in Yiddish, but in all the places I read it was in Hebrew. That the Ner Hamaravi, the candle of the West, has extinguished, and he was referring to the Hachaim, who was the Rav in Israel, that his light has extinguished. And his students asked him how he knew, and he said because there's a certain kavana, a certain kabbalistic kavana that's connected to Netilat Yadayim, that only one tzaddik per generation is privy to understand this kavana. And so, as he was washing for Shal Shudas, so this kavana was revealed to him. So he understood from the fact that this kavana was revealed to him, that until now this kavana was only revealed to the Hachaim HaKadosh, and now that it's revealed to him, it means that the Hachaim HaKadosh is no longer in the world. So that's how he, and sure enough, that later that night, so everyone, the news got out. So there's a lot of stories going around the Hachaim that speak about his piety and his holiness. One of the more famous stories is that when he was in Morocco, so he was a goldsmith, and he was a very good goldsmith. However, his love was obviously, his passion was obviously learning Torah, and so he had a custom that he would never work unless he needed money. So he would take a job, and he would take the money, and then when he had the money, so then he wouldn't take jobs until he needed more money, until the money ran out. So word got out that he was very good, the tzaddikim, so they're, whenever Hashem helps them with whatever they do. So the word got out that he was good. So the king was having a party, and so the king heard that there's Chaim ben Atar in the Jewish quarter, so he's a good goldsmith. So the servant sent out, and they went to him, and they said that we need something in the 10 days. The king is having a big party, and so we need you to make a certain kind of jewel for the king. And this is all the gold that you need to make it out of, and then they left. They weren't asking; they were telling him, and so they left. And in the meantime, so he had money, so he didn't need to work. So he just kept on learning, and the whole thing slipped his mind that the king wanted him to do this, and so they came back 10 days later, and said, "Where's the jewel that you made for the king?" And so I apologize, but I didn't get around to it. It's still it's untouched. I didn't even start. I'm sorry. So they took this with extreme severity, and they said, they brought him to the king, and they said that you are rebelling against the king's orders, and you're a traitor, and we're going to feed you to the lions. So they said tomorrow we're going to bring you into the lion's den, and so he asked permission. Do you mind if I should be able to bring into the lion's den my tehillim and my talis and tefillin? And they laughed at him this is not a hotel room. This is they're going to eat you. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. But they said, just if you don't mind, I just want to come with my telem and my talis and tefillin. And so they brought him in, and miraculously, the lions, that they hadn't fed the lions in 2 days. So the lions were starving. The lions were angry. The lions were that was normal procedure. That's what they did when they were trying to feed somebody to the lions. So they would get the lions upset. So the lions were roaring and just all over crazy upset. And he came in, and suddenly the lions were quiet. And they came back a day later to take his remains, if there would be any remains, and they saw that he was wearing his talis and tefillin and reading Tehillim, and the lions were licking his feet, like the dogs, they lick you and they like you. So the lions were licking him, as a sign of just affection, and so they were just freaked out. The servants were freaked out. What's going on? So they told the king. And the king didn't believe them. The king came to see it himself, and so the king said, "Let him out. He's a holy man. He shouldn't. We don't want to mess with him. So take him out." And so the king asked him. The king first of all, he apologized, realizing that he's a very holy man. He apologized for having to send him to this punishment, and he asked his forgiveness, and he and he gave him amazing presents. They gave him like jewels and money and lots of presents. Before he left, he said, "Can I ask you, like, dear Rabbi, how was it that you were able to survive? How did you survive from the lions?" And he told him that it was the merit of the Torah. It was the merit of the Torah that protected me, because the reason why I didn't make your jewel was because I was so obsessed with Torah, because I loved Torah so much, and because I was so devoted to Torah that I refused to do any work, even if it's for the king, if I don't have an absolute need. So that because I was so devoted to the Torah, that it's because of the Torah that I didn't do your bidding. So that's why that Torah that I was learning, that was what saved me from the lions. Okay, so that's a famous story about the Hachaim when he was a Rav in Morocco. Now, in the middle of his life, he wasn't so old. He was in his 40s when he passed away. But in the middle of his life, so he took a break from being a Rav in Morocco, because he understood from his Ruach HaKodesh that he was supposed to go on a galus, supposed to go in exile. Okay, what was the story? The story was that there was one week that all of the animals in the city of Morocco that he lived, they were all treif. There were all something wrong with the kashrus of all of the cows, and the one cow that was kosher was, never believe it, was the cow of the Hachaim. Okay, so there was some rich guy that came to the Hachaim, and he said, "Rabbi, I need some meat. I can't imagine going to Shabbos without my steaks. Please sell me. Please sell me. I'll give you anything. I'll give you anything for meat for Shabbos." And Chaim looked at him and he said, "You're such a loser. Sorry, I'm sorry, but the meat for my cow is only for Torah sages. It's only for Torah sages. So come on, Rabbi, but I have some. I'll pay you anything." I said, "No, I'm only helping Torah sages. I'm not helping obnoxious rich people." So a couple of minutes later, so this poor tzaddik, this poor hidden tzaddik, comes into the Hachaim's house, and he's wearing rags, and he's like the kind of person that like this rich person is used to despising and used to making fun of, and he says, "Oh, my dear tzaddik, here, let me give you," gives you a huge piece of meat, and the rich guy, so he starts cursing out this tzaddik. He said, "Who do you think you are that our Chaim is going to give you such a big piece of meat? That's the piece of meat that I should have had." And he starts making fun of him. He starts, "You're fake. You're a piece of garbage. You don't deserve it." And so meanwhile, so he's he leaves, and so the Hachaim, so he has a dream that night that because he was witness to this rich guy making fun of the tzaddik, and he didn't stand up for the honor of the tzaddik, so there's dinim on him, that there's judgment on him, and he's being judged for that, and the only way to atone for the sin is if he takes a year of exile. Okay, so there's it's a thing, like the way to do an exile is that like you can't stay in the same place for more than one day, and you have to, I don't remember the rules, you have to ask for food. Yeah. So he took upon himself to be in exile for a year, and so one Shabbos he was staying in a certain place, and so right before Shabbos he sat down, and it was Shabbos b'chokosai, and so he sat on a seat right before Shabbos, and he was deep in thought, and as he was thinking, so it was he thought of 42 different commentaries on the pasuk of Imbechukas Telechu. I'm just remembering now. I think there's a story about this. I think that in the Hachaim on the Hachaim, I think he talks about this, or maybe he writes it even. Okay, so he writes about he's mechadish 42 perushim on the Hachaim Telechu, and so he is in the show, and the rabbi of the show is a very, very holy man, and so that at night before Ma'ariv, so the rabbi is darshaning, and he starts saying 18 different perushim of Mechukas Telechu, and he tells the Hashor that if you want to know what's the source of these perushim, so these are perushim that I was privy to understand from the Mesivta Dirakia, from the Beis Medrash of heaven, and the Beis Medrash of heaven. So they say these 18 perushim in the name of Rabbeinu Hachaim ben Atar, and so the Hachaim is there. That's him, and so he calls out, it's just Chaim ben Atar, and they look at him like, who do you think you are? Like, the Chaim ben Atar is the biggest Rav in the world, and so they say, you better be careful. You don't mess with Hachaim ben Atar. You better show him respect. And he's just quiet. Okay, so, and then in the morning, so the Rav comes up to the Darshan again, and he says another 80 perushim, and he says, if you want to know what's the source of these, this is also that in the Mesivta Dirakia they also say these 18 perushim in the name of Rabbeinu Hagadol, Rav Chaim ben Atar, and again he corrects him. He says it's just Chaim ben Atar is really enough, and he says, and he goes, and everyone looks at him and like said, what's going on, and like this is like, that's not okay. You this, that's it. I thought I explained to you that Rabbi Chaim ben Atar is an extremely holy rabbi, and you do not disrespect him. And he's quiet, and then in Shal Shuras, so he says another 18 perushim. This is the last 18 perushim, and he says, and these perushim, this is also from the holy tzaddik, the Gaon Hashalem, Rav Chaim ben Atar. And once again, he says it's really enough to say Chaim ben Atar. You don't have to give him all these accolades, and that's it. He's had enough. He says that you are so disrespectful to the biggest rabbi of a generation that we have to lock you up. And he tells his servants to take him and to lock him in some back room, and to like put him like in jail, and we can't have somebody in our midst that's going to make fun of Reb Chaim ben Atar. And so that a little bit after Shabbos, so suddenly there's huge winds outside. It's like a tornado. And it starts raining, and there's thunder and lightning, and like everybody's like really worried. It's not usual. Like they're not used to having such a huge storm. And so the Rav, so he starts like meditating to try to figure out like what's going on. And so in his meditation, so they revealed to him that where's this tornado coming from? It's coming from the angel of Gehenna. It's coming from the angel of Gehenna. Why is the angel of Gehenna making such a big deal? Because somebody put the Hachaim HaKadosh in a broom in the back of your shul, and until Rav Chaim ben Atar makes Havdalah, so it's still Shabbos, and the Sar of Gehenna, so he's like, it's already time for him to go back in business, and they aren't allowing the Sar of Gehenna to reopen Gehenna until the Hachaim HaKadosh makes Havdalah. And so he's making a tumult. He's making a protest until you let him go. So he says, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea. Now it actually makes sense." so he brings out the Hachaim Kadosh, and he asks his forgiveness, and of course he makes Havdalah, and then the storm subsides, and that was the end of his galus, that he was, it was revealed to him that because of this incredible disgrace of being put in jail and being arrested like that, because he stood up for his own humility, whatever. So his galus was cut in half, and he was able to end his exile early. Okay, so there's when he came to Israel, so there's a very, very beautiful story, a very amazing story, that somebody had heard about him, that he knows how to do holy yichudim. He knows he's a huge Kabbalist, and he knows how to do yichudim to help people bring Yeshuas. So he asked him that, could you please do some yichudim to give me parnasa? I lost my job and whatever. And so he writes something down, and he says, and this is, if you ever wanted to know where is the custom of putting notes into the kotel, so the custom of putting notes into the kotel comes from the Hachaim Kadosh. Okay, so he gave him this note, and he wrote something down, and he said, go to the kotel and put this in one of the cracks of the kotel, and then you'll have a Yeshua. And so I don't know exactly how, but somebody, after he put it, somebody read this note of the Hachaim Kadosh, and the note goes that l'chvod yonati tamati achoti rayati hashchina hakdosha, in the honor of my sister, my mate, my beloved, my perfect one, the holy Shechina, please give parnasa to Plani ben Plani, that he needs a Yeshua. Signed, Chaim ben Atah. So basically, like the point was that this person had come to the Hachaim Kadosh thinking that he can do Kabbalistic Yichudim, and really to bring Yeshua, like the Hachaim was telling him that it's not about knowing Kabbalistic Yichudim. If you want to bring Yeshua, so you just need to really, really be close to the Shechina. If you really feel close to the Shechina, then Hashem listens to you. So this is and it's from this story that the whole concept of bringing of writing notes into the kotel really comes from this. Okay, so the one thing before we talk about I just want to say just one famous quote. And in my original plan, I was gonna play you the song, play you the melody for the quote, but I just want to share with you that one of the most beautiful things that in the commentary of the Hachaim Kadosh on the Torah, so can be found in Parshas Kisava, at the end of the parsha. So he writes a very beautiful note there, that Im hayu bnei adam magishim, if people would feel the b'neimus chavivos haTorah, if the people would feel with this pleasantness of the sweetness of the Torah, hayu mitlahatim I don't know why it's slipping my mind the exact words, that they would just be on fire and they would run after it. And nothing in the world would be worth anything to them. Nothing, all of the gold in the world and all the silver in the world would be, they would be crazy after it. They would just be running after it like in a craze, and nothing else, nothing besides Torah would have any value to them. Okay? If a person person would just, if people would know how sweet Torah really is, so they would be mishtagim achra. They would just go crazy, and nothing else would matter. And so it's simply like the sweetest experience, the sweetest thing. And it's something like you have to talk like that about Torah. Like you can't make up such a thing. Like he was sharing his personal experience with Torah, that the reason why he was so devoted to Torah was because it was simply the sweetest thing in the world, and there was nothing in the world that compared to it. There was no hamburger in the world. There was no amusement park in the world. There was no spa in the world. No massage in the world. There's no movie in the world. There's no trip in the world. There's any meaning of trip. So that there's nothing that comes even close to just the sweetness of learning Torah. And so like it was on a different level. It was just he was on a level of connection to Torah that he was so in touch with his soul that it was just the most amazing and the most fulfilling experience that it could possibly be. So it's not surprising that he was just living in a different world, that he was just everything was with him was simply just, he was on a higher spiritual level, and that's how he was able to help people, and that's how he was able to achieve his high spiritual levels. Now, the last story that I want to share with you happened after he passed away, and that's in 1948. 1948. So in the Israel Independence War. We lost the old city in 1948, and that's why we between 1948 and 1967 we didn't have control over the old city. So the Jordanians, they did horrible wreckage and horrible vandalism to the entire old city, and like it was in ruins. When we got it back in 1967, it was a big project to be able to rebuild it. And so one of the things they did is they wanted to destroy the cemetery in Har HaZeitim. So the Hachaim is buried in Har HaZeitim, and so they brought tractors and they started destroying. They started just destroying gravestones. They wanted to just make it into a park, and so they started bringing tractors to destroy the cemetery. And when it came to the gravestone of the Hachaim HaKadosh, the tractor toppled over, and the rider of the tractor was killed. It toppled over and he died. Okay, so of course they assumed that it was some malfunction with the tractor. So they bring some technician and they fix the tractor, and then they go for a second try, and the second time the same thing happens, and the tractor topples over, and a second time the guy dies. The rider, the driver of the tractor is killed. And so they realized that it's because of this holy person, that it's like he's not letting them destroy it. So they say, okay, we have to get rid of the tzaddik. So they take some huge hammer. They wanted to try to break it with a hammer. And sure enough, as soon as he picks up the hammer to break the gravestone, the hammer falls on his head and kills him as well. Three people died. 3 Jordanians died in trying to destroy the cemetery of the Hachaim HaKadosh. And at that point, they realized that this is beyond our payroll. We can't deal with these higher forces, and that's why that's why the tziyah now of the Hachaim HaKadosh. So it's still what? Yeah. So it's still completely intact, and it's like it goes to show you like how holy he is, and how much. And this is like I said, we're talking about tzaddikim. So we have like the tzaddikim that they're special because of how much they care, and the tzaddikim because they're special in how much and like their hasmada. Like he was special in just he was in a different level. He was like, and like we said from the Baal Shem Tov, that he was the neshama of Mashiach in Avatzilus. So like he was just like these are not things that we can't aspire. We can't aspire to be like this. But in my opinion, these stories are very important because the fact that you can reach these levels of piety through Torah, it's the best testimony to how real Torah is. Meaning that like, if you want to know, like, should I devote myself to Torah? Is it going to help me to be devoted to Torah? So like, I'm not, like, it shouldn't be nobody should have the motivation, well, I would like that the Jordanians aren't able to kill my gravestone. So like, we're not going to get there. But we do know that a person that really devotes himself to Torah, that's where he gets. And this is like a real story. This is not like it says somewhere. This is things which has historical evidence, like historical records, that this is a real thing, that these are real stories, that he was able to have these amounts of Ruach HaKodesh. And so like the fact that people that follow Torah to the nth degree, they reach these superhuman powers. So that, I think, is an amazing testimony to the fact that Torah is real, and like everything in Judaism is real. And so like we're fortunate to have even like testimonies about such holy people, that to know that, like, it's like there's kedusha in the world, and this is a real way. If you want to come to kedusha, the more that we can follow in their footsteps of coming close to Torah and coming close to kedusha, so then you're on the right track. All right, that's the first hero that we want to speak about. That is the Chaim ben Atar, the Hachaim HaKadosh. And so that was Wednesday. That's Tetvav Tammuz. Okay, the next hero that I would like to speak about. There's not so much to say about him, but he was amazing. He was an amazing leader. His name was Reb Eliezer Yehuda Finkel. His name was Reb Eliezer Yudel, and he was like I said, my Rabbi's grandfather. He was the father. My Rabbi's Rav Shmulevitz, so his father is Rav Chaim Shmulevitz. So his father-in-law was Reb Eliezer Yudel. His mother was Reb Eliezer Yudel's daughter, and so he was the Rosh Yeshiva of Mir in pre-war Europe. Okay, so he was the son of Reb Nosson Tzvi Finkel, the Alter of Slobodka, who is a Musar giant. He's one of the main personalities of the Musar movement. He himself was a student of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, and so he was brought up in a very holy home, and he was a genius. He was finishing Shas when he was already very young, and he was going to all the different shivas. He liked to have a buffet, like a smorgasbord. Like he learned in Brisk, and he learned in Telz, and he learned in Grodno, and he went to Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, and he got the essence of Rav Chaim. He got to Rav Shimon, he got to Rav Chaim of Telz. He wanted to get a well-rounded education and see different kinds of personalities, different kinds of styles, which is an interesting thing. Like I like that. I like some people are very just very one track mind. This is what we do. This is everything else is. And he wanted to see the beauty in all the different styles, and that's very special. So he came. He married the daughter of the Rosh Yeshiva of Mir at the time, of Eli Baruch Kamai, and so that's how he became the Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir Yeshiva in Mir in Poland, and Mir pre-war was the biggest yeshiva in Europe. Okay, everybody wanted to come to Mir. Okay, it was the place, like it was the place to be. It was I don't know, like Lakewood of today. Like it was like the place to be. If you're the who's who in American yeshivas, you go to Lakewood. So that was the Mir of Poland. So then then the war came. Then the war came, and so so he was very special in the fact that he was able. The Meir Yeshiva is the only yeshiva that survived as a yeshiva, and the reason why it survived is because the entire yeshiva was exiled to Shanghai. And the reason why there was the only yeshiva that was able to get to Shanghai is because there was a certain deadline to get visas, and he was the only one that the entire yeshiva was able to get visas in time. Okay, why was he the only one who was able to get yeshivas in time? Because apparently other gedolim of the generation, they thought it would be dangerous. They thought it would be dangerous to get these visas. It might get them in trouble. But he was very strong-minded, and he spoke to officials, and he spoke to experts, and he thought it was a good idea. And ultimately, he was obviously correct. And so he was able to send the entire yeshiva to Shanghai, and he himself went to Israel, and that's how he sent Hachaim Shlevetz was his son-in-law, that he sent him to be the Rosh Yeshiva there. And meanwhile, he started from scratch in making a yeshiva in Israel, and that's the yeshiva in Israel that we know. That's what he started. Okay, so what was unique about Rabbi Eliezer Yodel was his tremendous love of Torah and his selflessness. Okay, what I mean is as follows: it's normal. Like, so there seems to be a recurring theme that like people have institutions, so they oftentimes are most concerned about the success of their institution. Okay, and so if you're starting yeshiva from scratch, so it would make sense that you're going to put all your efforts into promoting your yeshiva and making sure that your yeshiva is going to succeed. So Rabbi Eliezer Yodel was not like that. I'm going to share with you two stories that I heard a recording from Baron Lapiansky. Baron Lapiansky was from Silver Spring. So he was the son-in-law of Rabbeinu Shvinko, who was Rabbi Eliezer Yodel's son, and so he reports that a story that he heard at some shloshim, some yard site of his father-in-law of Rabbeinu, and so there was this person that looked very, very respectful, like he was like dressed like a Rosh Yeshiva, and so he and Rabbi Lapiansky didn't know who he was, and so Rabbi Lapiansky is like he's also brothers-in-law with Rabbi Tzvi Finkel, and with all the Rabbeinu only had girls. Rabbeinu and he had five daughters, and for some reason he took all American, all five son-in-laws. He took Americans. Okay, so he took Rabbi Lubavitz, he took Rabbeinu Shvinko, he took Rabbi Yamin Karlbach, and Yisrael Goldstein, and Nosson Tzvi, and Rabbi Lapiansky. So they're all part. Like I learned in Meir for 10 years. Like I know all the family. So anyway, so he's the youngest, I believe. He married the youngest daughter. So he was asking all his brothers-in-law, like, who's this guy? And nobody knew who he was. So he went over to him and said, "Hi, nice to meet you. Like, did you know my father-in-law?" So he said, "Actually, I didn't know your father-in-law. I'll tell you the connection. The connection is that my father knew your father-in-law's father." Okay, and let me explain. So he doesn't remember if his name is Schreiber or Sofer, because that's the same thing. Like Sofer is just the Hebrew version for Schreiber. So the Schreiber is the family of the Chasam Sofer. Okay, so in what you call it, in Givat Shaul, so there's a building right next to the Zupnik called the Preshberg Yeshiva's Preshberg. Okay, so that yeshiva was started by somebody called the Das Sefer, who was one of the descendants of the Chasam Sofer, and so one day after the war, so Rabbi Eliezer Yodel came to my father, and he said to him, I want to open a yeshiva with you. So he says to him, so the Das Sefer says to Bnei Yisrael, listen, like, I'm very honored by the proposal, but I'm not sure if it's going to work, because like you're Litvish, I'm Hungarian, and like it's very different. Like Hungarian yeshivas are very, very different than Litvish yeshivas. Litvish means like from Lithuania. So I'm not sure if it's a good shidduch. So Bnei Yisrael said, no, I don't. Let me explain my proposal. You run the yeshiva, and I give you all the money. So he says, wow, that's like, I could get used to that. Like what can I ask? Why would you want to do that? So he says, because I was thinking about it, and you're the only Hungarian Rosh Yeshiva that's in Israel right now, and all the Hungarian yeshivas were destroyed in the war, and there's something very special about the Hungarian derech halimud, the Hungarian way of learning, and I think it's important that the Jewish world needs that there should be a Hungarian yeshiva, and so I want to support that there should be a Hungarian yeshiva to keep on giving the legacy of the Hungarian yeshivas of Europe. So that's how for 3 years, the yeshivas Peshberg was solely supported by Rabbi Yisrael. Okay, that's story number one. Story number two that Rabbi Lapiansky told was that he heard this story from Rabbi Yeshvei, who was the Rosh Yeshiva of the Philadelphia Yeshiva, and so once he told Rabbi Yeshvei told Rabbi Lapiansky that when he was a bacher in Israel, he was learning in Israel, and so Rabbi Yisrael came over to him, and he thought that he was a rich American. So he asked him, like, do you have any money? Do you have any money? I'm raising money for an important cause. So, and he was like, he said, like, I was like in like a wise guy kind of mode, and he said, like, well, what are you raising money for? So what do you need my money? What do you need my money? So he says, I'll tell you why, because I have a lot of boys in my yeshiva that are Sephardim, and like I love them, but like it's too hard for them. Like they need something else. They don't understand Yiddish. It's just like it's like it's not working, and they need a Sephardi yeshiva. And so I want to put together a Sephardi yeshiva, and I'm gonna open a Sephardi yeshiva because these Bachrim need a Sephardi yeshiva. And so like he just cared about Torah. He didn't care about my place, my yeshiva. Whatever the Jewish people needs, that's what he's going to support. Like, my part is my part, but I'm here to support Hashem's Torah. Okay. Besides that, he would anybody anybody who would come to him on Friday and tell him Mishtikal Torah, so he would pay him. He loved Torah. He wanted to support people, like not just like surviving. He wanted to promote people that say Chiddushim. That's where there's a thing in Mir that the Renaissance Tree really made this explode. But like having mivtzaim, having I don't know how to say it, like contests, kind of that's not a contest. It's I don't know what to call it. That like, if you write a 100-page essay, then we'll give you 1,000 shekel. If you there's in the Meir Shiva, there's tests every month, and if you pass the test, then you get 100 shekel, and if you finish the Masechta, then you get this much. If you finish Masechta 5 times, then you get this much. He's always trying to get them to Labriut. He's always trying to get them to do more and more. So it started from It started from his grandfather, that his he was to motivate people to exert themselves to succeed in learning for money. That was what so he was anybody who was learning anywhere would come to him Friday and and they would get money for that, and and what's amazing is that he loved, like he was just so, he just loved hearing Torah. He just he once told my Rabbi Foshmavitz, that he's heard over 2,000 chaburas on the sugya of Yir Shelo Midas. Yeah, Yir Shelo Midas is a particular discussion at the beginning of Edom Metzias. So for whatever reason, I know that like for kids, like it's like when you start learning Gemara, it's one of the first sugyas that they teach you. So for whatever reason, he said he's heard in his life, he's over 2,000 chaburas on Yir Shelo Midas, and yet when the 2001st kid comes to tell him, okay, Rosh Hashiva, I prepared a chabur. I said, yeah, I want to hear your chabur. What's your chabur about? It's about Yir Shelo Midas. I said, yeah, wow, I love that sugya. What do you have to say? And he would listen with, with complete excitement, and said, wow, that's amazing. Like, you deserve 100 shekel for that. And he never got bored. He never got bored because he loved Torah so much. Okay, so he was also a very holy man. My Rebbe told me that his mother would sometimes be very frustrated. Like, she would make him lunch. She would make him lunch, and she would come out. Nachmal, they're fasting. He's fasting. He was into he had something. He had this a little this holiness to him as well. Like, I think he's the one. I don't know if it's still in yeshiva. But when I was in yeshiva, they had a custom that on Mondays and Thursdays they don't serve fleishiks. They serve fish on Mondays and Thursdays, and I guess something for avelos lechorba, and it should be because of it's to be connected to the morning of the temple, and that came from him. He was a holy, a holy kind of man, as opposed to his son-in-law, as opposed to Rav Chaim Shulevitz, Mary's father. He was as Litvish as they come, cold. He's the kind of he's the guy. I don't know if it's true. He's the kind of guy that they said about him that he would come to the mikveh of Yom Kippur and say, I think last year was a little bit colder. It was and he was so Rebbe Yoda was the more Hasidish style of Litvish, and he was Rav Chaim Shulevitz was the more cold academic kind of. No, he wasn't cold at all. He was he was always crying, in fact. But we'll talk about him at the right time. But I think his Yahrzeit is around Hanukkah time. So anyway, what? Cold season. Yeah. So anyway, so that's Rebbe Yodel, and so it's Chassidei Gellman. And in the time we have, in this small amount of time we have left, so I want to speak about a third personality. Okay, and this is I don't know exactly when he's. I think there are some records of when he passed away. I think according to some records he passed away in the month of Sivan, but it's okay. I want to speak about a hero by the name of Matis Gellman. Okay, so Matis Gellman, he was born in Vienna to a completely assimilated family, and he was a Baal Tshuva. He became religious. He not only became religious, he became a rebbe. He became a bulldozer of Amunah, just a stronghold of having faith and being strong and being able to. He was the only one that was able to look at the Nazis in the eye and not be afraid of them. And so he has an incredible story. The story of his life and his movement is written by a Holocaust survivor, a historian, and rabbi by the name of Moshe. Why is it slipping my name? uh, okay, it'll come to me. So whatever. So the story. It's a book called "They That Never Yielded." Okay, they that never yielded. So you can look it up, and so the story is recorded in that book, and so the story goes like this: that one day, as the Nazis started, it was way before the Holocaust, but when anti-Semitism started in Europe, so one day somebody went over to him and called him a dirty Jew, and he was shocked. He was like, he knew he was Jewish, he knew he was Jewish, but it never meant anything to him. He was completely assimilated. He was very, very successful in school, and so it's like, it was the first time that he had experienced anti-Semitism in his life, and it was very, very shocking to him. It was very, very uncomfortable for him, and so he's walking out. He's like, he was 15 years old in high school, and so he decided, it's like being Jewish was something on his mind. So he decides that before he doesn't have the mood to go home, doesn't want to talk to his father about this. So he goes into the Jewish quarter of the town of Vienna, and so he starts looking at different Jews, there's different extremely religious Jews, there's more modern Jews, and he's looking around, and with this question, are Jews dirty? Like, what's this dirty Jew business? And so suddenly he sees like a lot of Jews, like very, very like Hasidic looking, gathered around. That there's this Rav that is standing on a porch, and everyone's like watching him, and say, well, who is this? He says, oh, you don't know, the Bian Rebbe is here is here from Krakow, and so he came to visit, and so he says, that's it, I need to speak to this rabbi. He runs up to where the building where the Bian Rebbe is, and he knocks on the door, and the Bian Rebbe, and he's like so impressed with the way the Bian Rebbe looks. He's like, whoa, it's like Rembrandt. It's like this, like you've never seen a Jew that looks like a Jew, and so he knocks on the door, and he says, Rabiner, can I ask you a question? And he says, yes, my dear son. And he holds his hand, and he said, Rabbi, today somebody called me a dirty Jew. Like, why would anybody call me a dirty Jew? Are Jews dirty? And so the Rabbi looks at him with like very, very warm eyes, and he said to him that if you would know where real filth comes from, you would know that it's completely impossible for a Jew to be dirty, because every Jew has a holy, divine soul, and we say every morning, Elokai neshama shenatata bi taharahi, that Hashem, the soul that you gave me, is pure. So a Jew has this pure soul that it's completely untarnishable, and it's completely impossible for a Jew to be dirty. So he says, but Rabbi, I'm so sorry, but like my father, he davens, he never taught me how to daven. I don't even know what this means. So he says, I'm so sad that you're suffering, and you don't even know why you're suffering. And he says, I bless you that you should find the right path to be able to figure out what it means to be a Jew. And so he leaves that meeting very, 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 very shaken up. And so he has a friend that he knew that this friend was like a religious Jew. Like every Shabbos he had a different excuse why he didn't come to school. And so so one day he says, like, what's that? You have some insignia on your shirt. Like, well, what's that all about? So is that you have a secret club? So he says, yeah, it's a secret club. That it's a Aguda Yisrael. Like the guy from Actress is like from Aguda Yisrael. Like I go to an Aguda club. So he says, do you think they would accept me? Do you think they would accept me to the Aguda club? And he says, yes, of course they'll accept you. That we meet twice a week, and he says, did he teach how to daven? So his friend laughs and he says, no, we know how to daven when we're kids. We learn Gemara, but it's okay. There's a bunch of kids that they're beginners that we teach them. We'll work it out. So come and we'll teach you. And so he starts coming to the Aguda Club. After 6 months, he's brilliant. After 6 months, he's already able to read Hebrew. He's already able to start understanding. And he decides that's it. I need to really, really figure out what it means to be a Jew. So he has his scheme. He one of the things that I said this about Mektres as well. And one of the things that I love about this is that there's some people that they're willing to do the right thing as long as they're able to follow the rules. And some people they say they realize that if you're going to follow the rules, you're going to remain a loser your whole life. If you want to make it big, so nothing's going to stop me. Okay, so he knew his father was very, very against Judaism. He knew that his father was very, very ashamed of his Judaism. So he told his father, Father, would it be okay? I heard that they're having this amazing exhibit in Krakow, and would I be able to go for they're having for 10 days? They're having some kind of thing, some kind of I think it would really improve my ability to understand art if I would be able to go there for 10 days. So he says, yes, Mati, you've been very successful this year. You got special awards with your German writing, and so yes, you deserve a break. You deserve a vacation. I think that works. So he bought him a ticket to go to Krakow, and of course he never stepped foot in the exhibition. And he went to the Biana Rav. Went to the Biana Rav the Biana Rav that he had met in Vienna, and he came to him. And he says, Rebbe, I started learning, and now I know how to daven, and I want you to help me that I should be able to go to yeshiva. So the Biana Rav writes him a letter of recommendation, and he says, take this to Rav Meir Shapiro from the yeshiva of Chachmei Lublin. Chachmei Lublin, Rav Meir Shapiro is famous as being the one who started Daf Yomi, and he had the biggest yeshiva, the biggest yeshiva in the time, and so he goes to him, and he writes to his friend Rav Meir Shapiro that this boy, he really, really is searching for Hashem, and please do whatever you can that he should be able to make it. So he runs away from home, and he applies as a new yeshiva boy in the yeshiva of Chachmei Lublin, and his father doesn't know what happened. His son is lost. So anyway, his father gets the police involved, and they're looking all over Europe for his son. And what? Never told his father. His father would never let him go to yeshiva. Okay, so sounds familiar. So they're looking all over Europe, and they find out that they hear rumors that he found him. Okay, so they tell him, his friends tell him that I think that the best place to hide in Europe, the best place is to go to Ger. So to go to the Emiamis. So he goes to Emiamis. Goes to Emiamis, and I think we're gonna have to do at some time a part 2 of Matas Gellman. So he goes to Emiamis and becomes a very, very devout Ger Chassid, and so what you call it, and eventually his father finds out there's Ger, and so eventually he has a plan. He has a plan that he's going to come out and tell his father that okay, it's okay, I'll come back with you. So when he comes out and he says, okay, I'll come back with you, so then he released all of the private detectives and all the police, and said, oh, okay, good. So then it was just him and his father, and so once he'd gotten rid of all the detectives and all the police. So on the way home, he was able to escape. He made a plan that in the middle of I think in Varsha, that he's gonna, in the middle of the way home with his father, he's going to say that he has to go to the bathroom, and in the bathroom he's going to escape. So he escapes the father, and the next thing he knows, he's back in Lublin. He's back in Ger. And so his father at this point, he takes, he says, okay, I guess I'm losing this battle. I'm losing this battle, and he goes and he decides he wants to speak to the Emiyamis. Okay, the Emiyamis, by the way, is buried right next to the shuk. Right next to the shuk. That the Emiyamis was saved from the Holocaust, and he's buried also with his Fasamis, his father. So he's buried there. So what you call it? So he goes to his father, and so his father, Matas Gellman's father, comes to the Emiyamis, and he says, "Okay, listen, you win. Just one thing, that my son was such a genius. He had such talent, such talent, that in writing, in acting, in screenwriting, and that it's such a shame for all of this amazing talent to go to waste. So please agree that for a couple of hours a week that he should be able to study." And the Emir says, "Look, I'll do whatever you say, but when a person comes to me and he says, my soul is just thirsty for Torah, there's nothing I can do to him." I think he's gone. He's hopeless. There's nothing. He's not going to listen to anybody. He's not going to listen to anybody. That and later, Mr. Matzgam would talk to his friends all of his writing and all of his screenwriting is all nothing, is all shtitzim. Anyway, so this is the first installment of Matas Gellman. We didn't even get to his amazing work in the Holocaust, but he's really a source of amazing inspiration, of getting whatever you need done, of seeking Hashem, and not taking no for an answer. So we should be zochet really to be inspired. We should be zochet to follow in the footsteps of our amazing heroes, B'ezrat Hashem. Hachaim.